Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're having a good week. As boxing fans, we often say to ourselves, that we're talking with mates maybe, what's the best fight you've ever seen? What's the best fight I've ever seen? Now, I've been a boxing fan for most of my life, almost all of it, and I started watching it, I suppose, casually when I was about 8. And then by these sort of late 70s, early 80s, I was well into it in a big way. And I do know what the best fight. I know which fight I would pick, but I'm not. I'm going to save that for another video. What I want to talk about is an even more difficult question that maybe you have asked yourself, maybe you haven't, and that is, what is the greatest round of boxing that you've ever seen? Now, for me, having watched boxing from, I don't know, maybe 40 something, 45 years, 48 years, or whatever it is, you know, I have to say that in terms of absolute drama, where I've just been left breathless watching it, I'm going to go for Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, round 9. And yes, there are lots of other great rounds. I think there was a 9th round of the first Bo Holyfield one. That's a great one. There's several in the first. Alexis Arguello, what's his name? Aaron Pryor. That their first fight, which is one of the best fights I've ever seen. There's some fantastic rounds in that. I mean, you can pick any number of rounds, but for me, I'm going to explain to you why I think Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, round 9 is the best round I've ever seen. And I've thought this for a while. This isn't something I've just pulled out of my backside. I've actually thought this would have to be my favourite round. Now, it took place on the 18th of May 2002, and that was only 4 days before my birthday. My birthday's on May 22nd. What would I been in 2002? I'd have been 35, turning 35. And I was living in America at the time. And at the time, in 2002, HBO Boxing, as it had been for some time, was kind of the king of boxing, the absolute creme de la creme of broadcasters for boxing. If you were on HBO, even more so than Showtime, it was a big deal. So I always watched HBO. I subscribed to HBO when I lived in America. I loved the boxing. My wife at the time, if ever I went back to England, my wife was American. She'd record all the boxing for me. It's fantastic, you know. God bless her. And I knew this fight was going to be special. I knew it. I remember saying to people, "You've got to watch this fight. Do not miss this fight. It's going to be explosive." There was just something in the air. Now, as a fight itself, it is great. It is a great fight. And certainly I would say it's Mickey Ward's finest hour. Now, you may have seen the film, The Fighter, with Mark Wahlberg as Ward and Christian Bale as Dick Eklund, his half-brother and trainer. And Dick Eklund had his substance misuse issues and had turned it round he was a fighter himself. He'd become Mickey Ward's trainer. And I think Christian Bale won its Best Supporting Actor Oscar for that as well, for that role. But the thing about that movie is that it stops at the point where Ward won the WBU title against, I think, Shane Neary. And it doesn't include this incredible trilogy that he had with Gatti. All 3 fights are terrific, but the first one was just unbelievably good. I mean, it was incredible. And in fact, the win over Gatti, which was a majority decision, on the 18th of May 2002, was the final time that Mickey Ward would win a fight. He had 2 follow-ups with Gatti, and he lost them both unanimous decisions. But he did make, I think, $1 million apiece. So, deservedly so, he walked off into the sunset with a few quid in his pocket, or a few bucks in his pocket. And I think we can all agree that, Mickey Ward was an astounding servant to the sport and deserved to have big paydays. Now, the round itself, first of all, the fight had been amazing. Amazing swing. I think, there was always it was good to start with. You got the feeling that Ward was going to hunt down Gatti. Gatti was boxing well. He had Buddy McGirt in his corner who had kind of turned him. When Gatti began his career, he was kind of a boxer, or boxer puncher, and he was involved in so many incredible sort of Rocky style wars. And he got into this reputation. He got the reputation. He got into this rhythm. This almost slipped into it, being a slugger, and neglected his tools. And Buddy McGirt kind of brought those back. He brought him back to base in a sense and said, "Hang on a minute, you've got all these tools, you're not using them. Yeah, you can swing big hooks, but you've got to do it with some sort of thought." He kind of reintroduced the box fighter element to Gatti's game, and of course he was Mickey Ward, who was no great stylist, but as hard as nails. The one punch that he had that he would always try and land was an enormous left hook to the body. One of the best left hooks I've ever seen, to be honest with you. If you look at Mickey Ward's biceps, I think his left bicep's actually bigger than his right one, because he practiced that left hook again and again and again. And he stopped a few people with it prior to this fight. Well, in the 8th round of this fight, just before the bell, he had hurt Gatti to the body with a hook. And the commentary team, which was a brilliant commentary team of Larry Merchant, Jim Lampley, and the late great Emmanuel Stewart. By this point, the fight had, completely lit fire, and everyone was loving it. But no one was prepared for this 9th round, because the bell went, and within 15 seconds, Gatti was on the floor from that left hook, and was grimacing, and it didn't look. I mean, bear in mind, I'm watching this live as it's happening on HBO, and I'm like, is he going to get up? Is he going to get up? And I'm sure I'm not the only one, And he did get up at 9. Very, very badly hurt. Very badly hurt. If you've ever taken a body punch, a serious body punch, you'll know you just can't feel your legs. It hurts like hell, and you can shake off the headshots for the most part, unless you are concussed, of course. But even then, you can maybe whittle your way through it. With a good body punch, it's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult to shake it off. And so, for the first minute of that fight, Emmanuel Stewart was going, he needs to go back to the body, with Ward. And Ward was trying the left hook, and he for the first minute, maybe the first 50 seconds, he was absolutely battering Gatti, who was spinning around the ring. But towards the end of that first minute of the round, Gatti started to throw punches back. Nothing scientific, they were big hooks with a lot of meat on them. And suddenly Mickey's forced to cover up a little bit, take a breath, because he's used up huge gulps of energy. The action is incredible. Larry Merchant at one point said, just look at this. He went, just look at this. Emmanuel Stewart screaming his head off, go to the body, he needs to go to the body. In the second minute of the round, it's all Gatti. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, Gatti gets his second wind, whatever you want to call it. He finds energy from somewhere. It's almost like a last stand. And he just flails away and rails on Mickey Ward. And Ward pushed back at one point. I think towards the end of the minute, Ward was pushed into a corner. There's punches flying everywhere. Ward is, banging his gloves together. Come on, I can take it. And Gatti pouring whatever he's got left onto Ward. But he poured so much onto Ward, he had nothing left in the pan. And in the 3rd minute, suddenly Ward takes over again, and he's beating the crap out of Gatti. You've got to go. If you haven't seen this round, a lot of you have, I'm sure. Go and have a look at it. And the commentary, the crowd are going mental. At one point, Jim Lampley says, just imagine if you had bought a ticket. And Emmanuel Stewart, he said something that's always stuck with me. He said, you dream about fights like this, but very rarely do they deliver. Very rarely. You were so in the moment of this fistic drama. You just knew. As I was watching it live, I was thinking, this is one of the best rounds I've ever seen. And immediately, I actually, on the old VHS tapes, I recorded the fight and then watched it back immediately afterwards. It was that incredible. You just had to have more of it. Well, in the 3rd minute, Gatti is spinning all over the place. He's not even trying to hide the fact he's in pain. He's dropping his arms. He can barely hold his arms up. He gets battered into the ropes. I think it's Frank Cappuccino was the referee. He almost stopped it. And in fact, Jim Lampley said, you can stop it now, Frank, because Gatti was just taking too much punishment. Skidding along the rope, trapped in a corner, got out of it. Tried to, and then in the last maybe 15, 20 seconds, somehow Gatti found, God knows where it was, he found some energy to throw some punches of his own, which kind of held Ward at bay until the final, till the round ended. The bell went. Well, this was a 10-rounder, and they had another round after this, which was less dramatic. And I actually gave the next, bizarrely, I gave the next round to Gatti. I gave that round to Ward. I think he won 2 of the 3 minutes, and he scored the knockdown as well, of course. But during I think it was the final round, Larry Merchant said something again that I thought was quite profound. He said, "I am humbled watching these two go at it, these two fight. I'm humbled. And that's the perfect way of putting it. One of the most extraordinary rounds I've ever seen. I'm going to say it's the best I've ever seen. You may disagree, you may pick another round, that's fine, that's fine. But for me, this round encapsulated everything that is great about boxing. Because boxing, a lot of the time, you know, we know about the PED scandals and we know about boring fights and very bad decisions. And, you know, sometimes we think, you know, boxing is this sort of whore we can't give up. But when it gets it right, like it did in that fight, especially that round, nothing on earth can compare in terms of drama. No sport, nothing. It's the most dramatic sight imaginable. Two guys flailing away at each other, almost trying to kill each other at the sort of pain that you or I perhaps couldn't take. I don't think I could take it. It's just drama. It's almost like art made physical, art through violence. The sweet science, I guess. Massively dramatic. And that round will always stay with me as probably my favourite round of all time. I can't see it changing. But the thing was, I knew at the time watching it, it was going to be one of the greatest rounds I'd ever seen. And I was just breathless by the end of that round. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, so you what do you think? I mean, do you agree with me? Perhaps you have a different round in a different fight where you think, okay, I think that round was better, but I'm sure you'll agree if you're a boxing fan that this is one of the great rounds anyway. Certainly one of the great rounds of my lifetime. And it also emphasised the importance of good commentary, because good commentary, and you had three very knowledgeable people, Merchant, Lampley and obviously Emmanuel Stewart, but they added to the drama because their commentary was it was sparse. They weren't cluttering up the airwaves with chatter, and they didn't hide their enthusiasm and their awe at what they were watching. Yeah, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts below. What's the best fight you've ever seen? And not the best fight, the best round you've ever seen. We'll save the fights for later. We'll do a round. Give me the best round you've ever seen, and tell me what you think of this one. Great fight, wasn't it? Anyway, thanks for your time as always. Hit the subscribe button if you don't mind, and also pop that like button, that helps us out as well, and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. You know, we want to get those subscribers up. I really love making the videos. I love reading your comments. Leave something down below and I'll answer it. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.